A very good afternoon to everyone. Can we please play a short video to set the tone for the event today? I'm sure we have all been transported to Switzerland, where we love to have our favorite chocolates in Zurich on Bahnhofstrasse. So, keeping that in mind, let's welcome our speaker, Mr. Milan Prenosil. He's the chairman of Confessory Sprungli. He studied law at the University of Zurich, and due to family reasons, he entered the business right after his studies. He became CEO and managing director in 1994. Today, he manages the enterprise as executive chairman together with his younger brother Thomas in the sixth generation. Confessory Sprungli is a Swiss family owned company with a tradition stretching back to 200 years. It is one of Europe's most renowned chocolate and confectionery producers and one of Switzerland's most reputed and established family businesses. Confessory Sprungli is a historical mother of Lindt. The two companies separated in 1898. So we really go long back. And there's so much more to learn about Sprungli and heard the journey from Milan. Milan, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's really a pleasure that you've taken time out for us. I know it's a very busy time for your company, for the stores. It's Christmas, but we're really grateful that you could be here.
Manjri, thank you very much. And ladies and maybe gentlemen around the globe, it's really a pleasure and honor to be on your platform and in this talk. Thank you, Manjri, for organizing that.
So let's get right to it. Very curious to know the story of Sprungli. 200 years is a lot of history. How did it begin and reach where it is today?
Well, let me start back in 1836, 185 years ago almost. I mean, David Sprungli, the first generation, came to Zurich 1798 as an orphan. He was absolutely alone, unknown personality. He became apprentice in very difficult times because at those times Zurich was occupied by the French, by Napoleon, and almost robbed and destroyed. So David started in buying a small little chocolate company, which was founded already in 1720 and named it David Sprungli and Son. And there where everything started, in the old city of Zurich. Then in 1845, his son Rudolf became one of the first chocolate maker pioneers and founder of the Swiss chocolate industry. And he started to produce chocolates in the small premises in the old town of Zurich. Then something very important happened in 1858. Our house at the Parkplatz was built, was constructed, because the city of Zurich, they had plans, the former governments, to build the station exactly at the Parkplatz where the Credit Suisse stands today. So when this happens, of course, speculation started, because everybody wanted to go and leave these old medieval walls and cities and go into the Parkplatz. So at the end of the day, this house was a kind of speculation, because Rudolf thought, okay, when I go outside the city walls, at the Paradeplatz, where the station is, where tourism will be, the first hotels like Burlak and Savoy, I will be the first and I will make the business. Luckily, the station, the main station, stayed where it is today. Otherwise, the city would be divided with railways into halves, and we don't have a city center. That meant that, of course, there was no business for about 30 years, till 1880. And the company only survived because of the small shop in the medieval part at the Paradeplatz a bit. Then suddenly, when the Bahnhofstrasse was built, you have to imagine from the lake on to the Jelmoli, if you know Zurich, almost to the station, there was an old fortification. It was a pit filled with water for 700 years. And this was quite smelling, you know. It was called the Frog's Pit, actually. And this is the Bahnhofstrasse of today. So they started to construct it, to fill it with sand, and built this Bahnhofstrasse, which later became so famous because of the banks and of all of the shops. Then in 1892, I think you mentioned it already a bit, Manjari, in the third generation, there were two brothers. One took over our branch, the Confiserie Sprungli with the Paradeplatz, and the other took over a chocolate factory which was built in Zurich at those times. And it was not connected to Lindt at all at those times. So there was actually separation, 1892, in two family branches, one industrial and one artisanal. This is us. And of course, these brothers worked together very closely, and they supplied us with liquid chocolate, with a couverture, as you call it. It's like flour for bread. We use couverture to make chocolates and pralines. It's the base ingredient, actually. So they were together, and then something very important happened. The city started to grow by the end of the 19th century, very fast. And the city government decided to close all the factories and industries which were located in the midst of Zurich at those times. So the industry branch, they were expropriated. They got some money, almost nothing. And then they went on looking for new premises, new land. And they found it in Kilchberg, close to Zurich. This is where the village, the community where I live till today. And they built land and started to build a factory. And then they merged with Lindt Bern. And this was one of the first mergers, actually, of the Swiss economical history in 1898. And they merged the companies Lindt and Sprungli chocolate factories. So ever since we are separated, but as time flows and generations are mixing, some had children, some not. I mean, the shares came back to us as well. So we had always a bit shares on the Lindt, but they never had shares on us. So this is very important to know. Lindt is prime in industry, and we are prime in craftsmanship and freshness, and we are still 100% owned family company, which Lindt is not anymore. Then we had war times, 1939, 45, very difficult times. Hermann Sprungli took over the fourth generation, and after his death, my uncle Richard Sprungli in 1956. He started to expand slowly but surely with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shops, and he bought a small factory outside Zurich, where is now our fabrication plant, actually, very important for us. So we are producing everything there, everything which you see, buy, and enjoy our shops here in Switzerland, in Dubai, or private customers India, is made and produced in Ditikon, because this gives you the guarantee and security that our products are right on track, you get the right thing. Our uncle was the inventor of the Luxembourg, of the macaroons. I mean, he was not actually inventor. We had in 1956 an apprentice from Luxembourg coming in after war times. And my uncle, young man at those times, started innovation process. And then the macaroons were created by the Kamistuder, by this young man. And my uncle, as a confiser and confectioner, improved the recipes and made them much smaller than we know it from the French dimensions. So small, very light, with lighter fillings. Then the expansion started in 1970, slowly but surely. And when my brother and I took over in 1994, we had 12 shops. In the meantime, we have 27. 2 in Dubai, 25 in Switzerland. We have 7 coffees, restaurants. We are fully digitalized. We have a worldwide mail ordering system, private customers around the world. When we started in 1994, we had about 30 million US. Now we have 140, 150, almost 1,000 people. So we did something all together with our management team. And I think we are very proud to say that with our people, our management team, and our family, we managed really the last 30 years to transform Sprungli in this globalized world by always staying faithful to our niche and our quality standards and standards of uniqueness. To make a long story a bit short, Marjorie.
No, I think it's a very interesting story from where it started and where we are today. I think it's wonderful and very inspirational to see how the families have progressed and how this has been a family owned business, which is very intriguing for all of us in India because all of us are part of family owned businesses as well. So, which brings me to the next question, which is how do you manage, family processes to maintain harmony in the family as well as have the business functioning smoothly? Because
Okay.
family owned businesses sometimes are tricky. So,
Very, very, very often, very often. Look, when I go back to the former generation, I must say, without them, we would not be here. It's very important to say. And I would like to go back to 1956, very important, when my uncle Richard took over in the fifth generation. I mean, his father at the time was a banker and he was the chairman of Lind, even though the shares, but not with us, so the family was always a bit mixing. And the father of my uncle, he had 3 siblings, 2 sisters and 1 brother. One brother, the brother was the head of the confiserie, and the 2 sisters were completely out of business. And they say, we do not want to inherit a single Swiss franc because otherwise we have to sell the company. There was already a certain value behind it. So these people were not driven by money, but by the legacy to give and pass this torch of business on. And luckily, there were almost no children in the 6th generation, only 3, in the 4th generation, only 3. And they came along quite well because somehow they forget their egos and they managed it, and they refused a lot of money and invested everything in the companies. So without being that reasonable, we wouldn't be here already for 15 years. We have to really realize that. And now the board of directors is my aunt, 94. I mean, honorary chairman. She's not active anymore, of course. It's my brother, me, and my CFO. We are thinking to expanding the board slowly but surely, but we are quite careful. And our children, I must really say, I have 3 children, daughter 25, 2 sons 23 and 20. They're all interested in entering the company. My brother, 3 years younger, has 2 boys, 7 and 9, the generation, luckily. And I always said to my children, look, go abroad, study, learn something reasonable you can use even without a company because nothing is forever. And when your life journey brings us back to our company before or after 30, you are most welcome. But go and let's see what will develop. And the cooperation with me and my brother is quite sportive. He's the CEO, I'm the executive chairman, because it's very important. I could not be only here, sitting and playing golf, which I actually not do. And we have our competencies. I'm expanding the business. I'm hiring directors and middle management. I'm responsible for the whole training, education, for the whole expansion abroad and in Switzerland. And I'm the coach of my board and of the directors. I'm always around for them. I read all the papers. I have all operational information because I want to have it. And I never interfere with my brother because we always, or most of the times, always discuss about the problems and then we decide who is doing what. And this, I must say, after 30 years of cooperation, works quite smoothly for the moment, I must say, yes. So the 2 of us cope very well together. And if there will be a next generation, we will see at least in 5 years. I leave it completely open for the moment.
excellent. Excellent. That's so interesting to know. And that's great to know that the children will be joining in, they're interested in joining in. But do you have a process for them to join in? Like, do they start from the bottom, like instead of, taking the management positions immediately, they start, learning the roots and how everything functions before they get to the top management level?
Look, when my brother and I started, I entered the company 30 years ago. Tommy is younger, 2 years later, and then we were prepared by our uncle. I mean, I was working here as a young student already. I was driving the cars, the trucks. I was working with our people. I did a lot of military service here in Switzerland. It's mandatory up to lieutenant colonel. So I always like to go with people, you know, always like to lead, manage, and communicate with all social classes. I don't have this, you know, this status thinking at all. And this I like very much. And my brother, by the way, as well. So after 3 years of preparation, I took over as CEO, and Thomas as well. Because we said, look, we are young men. I was 32, Thomas was 29. We do not know how long our uncle, he was 78 years then, will live. He became 97 years, by the way, but this we could know, of course. And so we said, we have to enter the operational business and to understand it very fast. So we said, we will be CEOs, but we'll change the CEO position every 6 months. This is quite challenging for brothers and for management, as you can imagine. And beside this, I was director of marketing expansion and development, and Thomas was the director of production innovation. So we coped quite well together. We are separated by location, but we had to manage together. This was very interesting. And for our children, I must say, our daughter did now her master's in communication, digital communication, marketing at European Business School. She will have now her really first job, but she was always working from January on, but not in our company. And I told her, look, you're always welcome, but not before 30. Go make your experience. And then when she will come, I'm sure, I mean, she will not start from scratch on, but she will go probably to the marketing department, maybe to the factory as well. I mean, I would like to see her 1 year working with our people all over the place, and not always at immediately taking a management position. Absolutely not. She can be a hired gun for a couple of years, and then she can prove herself. And this is the same thing with my sons. With Andy, who is in Boston and Northeastern. He was graduating with bachelor in supply chain management and management information systems. He's now studying his master's in finance. And Nicola, our youngest, with 20, he's studying at UCL in London, politics and economics with Chinese. And they're all interested. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you study law or economics, you have to have the right brain and the right heart and the understanding, the passion for the business. I think this is very important.
Absolutely. I so agree. And thank you for sharing that. So, how does Switzerland play as a competitive edge in terms of location, in terms of the ingredients that you get? How does that help you with being so good at what you produce?
Of course, excellent question as well. Sometimes I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, how did we manage it? Really? How did we achieve this? How? Of course, you had processes and analysis. You could take over a fantastic entity business-wise already at that time. But I would say it's all about the right people, It's about understanding the company, the spirit of the company. And if you enter a company which is healthy, you really have to know where, to put on the screws, This is very important. Where to change, how to change. And for me, it was very clear, it's a delicate thing. Don't change it too fast. We are not public in terms of corporate, but we are a public belonging to our customers because everybody knows about something about Sprungli for generations, for 6, 7, 8 generations. So it's very delicate, And at the beginning, you can only make mistakes. So go slowly but surely, understand it and change slowly. And we changed a lot of things, Manjari. Believe me, we are fully digitalized. We changed our assortments 1 or 2 times already. We adapted recipes. I think it's about the people, about communication, about having a clear idea. It sounds so theoretically, but it's the way. And to start to work with the people and to trust them. And we had incredible knowledge in the company already. And somehow we managed to transform it in the new generations by leading, by example, by discussing, by giving them responsibilities, but not only being pushy, but listen to them and learn together with them. And I think this makes us to Sprungli of 2021. It's difficult to
Wow.
explain, you know. I mean, it's leading by example, understand the business, understand the passion, the philosophy, and change it slowly but surely. It's not always about money, money, money. It's about the philosophy and about values, and then with some luck, you can be successful.
That's fantastic because I think that comes across in the product, in the entire way everyone, all the when you interact with someone at the store, I think the entire value system that you're talking about, and the philosophy comes across to the customer, where you
This
realize it's more important in serving than the money. It's very true.
and I must say we have whole education and training programs from
Mm.
top down, down top. My brother and I, we are educating ourselves. I'm going now to Harvard for YPO again. You know, it's very important for me. It's not sometimes important for the business, but it's important for myself. You know, to get inspiration, to have this classical exchange. And then we have the training units for directors, middle management, lower management, in services, in psychology, in communication, of course, in quality, how you produce products, how you present products, how you communicate with the customers. And this is a process which took now 20, 25 years. And because we are repeating always and always, we give this torch of knowledge always on to the next generation. And somehow it works. Somehow it works. Yes, it is.
I think it's worked very well. That's great. But tell us some of your learnings. I'm sure you've learned a lot over the way. Like you said, you've really evolved and changed. But what have been your key learnings while running a business like this over the years?
Nothing is forever. You have to be ready for change, which is always tough. You have the courage to change, and you have to know that with every change, you always disappoint somebody, employees, customers. But if you make more employees and customers happy with your change, that you are successful. Imagine in the last 185 years how the world changed, how many changes we had in this company alone. Huh? Only Sprungli, it's unbelievable. Only changed in the last 30 years. I must say, you as an owner, as a chairman, as a CEO in a family company, but in a corporate as well, you always have to be ready to change. Nothing is forever, and you have to know where to cut. This is very important. And then communication, leading, speaking, convincing, deciding. And sometimes you have to change the people. Absolutely. If they are resistant to guidance and leadership, you have to change them in the management, top management, and in management. Absolutely. But this happened very rarely in our company in the last 30 years. Somehow we convinced really the people to take the torch on. I always speak of this torch, how it is this holy fire of passion, you know, somehow. And we took them with us. And I must say, in the last 20 months, we were hit by COVID enormously. It was one of the most difficult years in our history, 2020. It was really amazing how our people went together very closely, were incredibly supportive, dynamic, and how we handled this crisis. I mean, this was really, really touching for me to see this, you know, from the really most simple workers to the management. It was a unit, really a unit. And this, I must say, is not only because of the fear of the future, but somehow an expression of our culture and the communication and how we stick together.
That's true. I really agree with what you have said. And it's very interesting that you said about how to deal with change. And I think that's imperative for anyone, even in business, even in our personal lives. We have to be ready for change and embrace change because that's the only constant in this world that stays with us. So that's a
And this
very,
is
very
how,
interesting.
and people, we know, I mean, you can read everywhere and you can experience it. People in general have problems and difficulties with change because they
Yes.
take them out of the comfort zone. And especially if you had a successful concept, many people very often are, why change a winning horse? And I think from time to time you have to change it, or you have to feed it better and treat it better, you know, or put the head in other direction as well. And this is our task, Manjari, as chairmen and CEOs.
Wow. That's very, very interesting to say. I think that's a very important point for all of us to remember, especially the last 2 years. I think ever since COVID, I didn't want to talk much about COVID, but ever
Yeah,
since we've hit
absolutely.
COVID, everything has changed for all of us. So, and it's made us all more resilient as well.
And maybe let me add something which came now to my mind in the discussion about change and about succession. Very often, another learning, legacy. It's an issue. Legacy has to do with egos as well. And I think it's a mistake to be caught in a legacy, even the legacy is here after 200 years. And you in India have many, many old, really great companies as well, in Arabia as well. And I must say, sometimes one has to be honest and say, my children are not capable to do it. I have to change it. I have to find a solution, a way to pass the torch on to somebody who doesn't want or is not capable. This can happen, of course. It's wrong. It's wrong and bad for the family. It's wrong and bad for the company and for employees, because we have a responsibility, not only towards our company, but as well towards people. It's my opinion, absolutely. Not be caught in the legacy and say it's comfortable for me if I pass it on to my children after me, forget it. I did my job. I think we have to really be able and capable to think out of this legacy box as well.
I think that's very brave of you to say that, because not many people can face that. Even the children cannot face that. Sometimes they're brought up thinking that it's taken
Yes.
for granted that I will lead this business, not realizing that they have to be capable and they have to deserve it. They have to be credible for it. So it's very, very brave that you can even think like this and even say it out loud.
And I think, excuse me to say that way, it's a question of education as well. Not only, but as well. Clear communication from beginning on. Nothing is forever. Go,
Hmm.
learn, go your way, and then we will see where your journey brings us. But to say a kid of 10 years, you're the successor, I mean, it's the biggest mistake you can do, even for this young man or girl.
Very true, because then he loses the fire in the belly. There's
Absolutely.
because he knows that there's always a backup.
Difficult,
So
difficult. Of course, difficult, clear.
that's very, very brave. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we want to know a little bit more about Milan. We know a lot about Sprungli now, but we want to know more about you. And how do you deal with stressful situations whenever you are dealing with stress? What are your ways of relaxing? What are your ways of getting a work-life balance, and dealing with stress? Because I think in this day and age, running any business is very stressful.
In stressful situations, I speak to myself and I play roles how I handle problems in my head. And I prepare myself for these kind of situations. I can cope with myself quite well. I don't need, except my family, my wife, my children, and some friends, many people around me. And I learned to deal with stress by really putting problems into the cupboard somehow. And then I do a lot of Pilates and yoga, and this helps me to cool down. And then I have a very understandable wife. I can discuss the issues, sometimes. But as I said, Manjri, I reflect my problems in my head. I imagine different kind of situations, how I would react to them. And if I cannot solve it for myself, I discuss it with my wife or maybe with my YPO forum, and this helps me. And besides this, I do some sport, as I said.
That's wonderful to know that you reach out to people, during
Yes.
stressful situations. A lot of people do keep it within. So that's a very important point that you have mentioned. I
But
think
it
that's
took me years to learn it, by the way.
okay.
Go with it. I mean, it didn't come like this. I think it came with age and maybe a certain kind of wisdom, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. And trial and error. So
Yes,
realizing
absolutely.
what works.
Absolutely.
So, coming to trial and error, very curious to know that some of the mistakes maybe you've made in the past, if you don't mind sharing. Um, we all make mistakes. And if there are some mistakes that you think that you made and you learned from it, if you are okay to share with us, because I would always help all the entrepreneurs who are watching that it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to rectify it and move forward.
Uh, one of, I would say, the biggest mistakes I made many years ago, I hired a new director for some of our entities. I don't say now which one, to be fair. And it was qualified with all the assessment, and I liked his personality very much. And even our board of directors, which I was presiding, agreed with me to hire this man. Then 2 years later, when he took over then from his successor, after he was prepared for 3 years, everything went wrong. We had incredible problems with quality. We had incredible problems with communication, leading people. And we only kept going because our middle management, who caught and replaced and consumed the faults and mistakes their director made. And I was really, because I liked this man, this guy, because he was nice. And he could always convince me somehow. And I must say, I made a mistake that I not fired him after a couple of months, but I took him with us for 3-4 years, and then I had to fire him. I mean, this was one of the biggest mistake to be caught by a quite of sentimental personal feeling. This was a mistake, I must say, a heavy one, which really, really cost us money, energy, and time, Manjuri. Yes. Being
Sure, but you
sentimental,
recognize them.
being socially and sometimes caught in the social responsibility. We're grown up, not to fire it in 50. How will he find a job and so on? And always hoping for improvement, knowing that he will never improve.
But you rectified it, which is what is more important.
Yes. And we could solve it quite nicely with a new man who is making a fabulous, fabulous job. And he came from a competitor. Somehow one needs luck as well,
Mm. But then how do you keep relationships, which is very important also in business? You have tough situations where you have to deal with people, let go of people. So dealing with relationships is also very tricky, but very, very important. And what are some of your key mantras that you use for dealing with such relationships and for maintaining them?
I mean, when I started 30 years ago, I studied law at the University of Zurich. I didn't understand anything of retail, of business. I did some courses at university, learned some business at the St. Gallen. This is business school in St. Gallen I was as well. And then I started. And because I like to work brightly, somehow I came in different kind of boards here in Zurich and in other companies, Swiss National Bank, and I became president of this retail federation. But slowly but surely, it came somehow. I was always able to connect with people. I don't know why. I'm not a social person at the end, but it belonged to the business, and I liked it, and I learned a lot, and somehow I coped with people, and with time you learn how to manage, how to connect with whom and with whom not, and it's not being always surrounded by people who always say yes, yes, but really to discuss, to be fair and honest. I would say fair, honesty, direct communication, and doing the job is very important to build trust, and then networks are coming automatically because it's a word of mouth. It's a word of mouth. And I was never looking for all these jobs. And I don't say because I'm so brilliant. I don't know why. These jobs came to me. They were offered. I was never looking. And I'm so happy that I was able to work all these foundations, to the other boards, to become president of different kind of entities. I was never looking for it. It came somehow. I'm a very lucky man, I must say. But I must say, be honest, be direct, be always fair. and be straight. Be straight, really. People have to rely on you, and then networks coming automatically. And with age, you don't need this network so much anymore because you know exactly where to pull and who to call. And then you have to be faithful, meet them, write them, call them regularly. At least they're really, really tight, narrow network. I think it's very important. This helps. And the rest comes automatically.
That's a wonderful perspective. Thank you so much. That's really helpful because I don't think it's only luck, Milan, for you. You definitely, we all are very lucky and blessed, but you work hard, you follow your principles. I think those are some of the key values that have taken you forward. So it's not always only about luck. It's also hard work, which I'm sure you work really, really hard. But what's also interesting is about 30 years of army service. I think that was very fascinating for me to know and read it in your profile. Tell us about your experience. And I know Switzerland, it's compulsory for everyone to go through military service, which I think is a great quality and a great compulsion or a rule, if I can say that. But tell us about your experience in the army.
My uncle Sprungli was a colonel in the Swiss army. My grandfather, I was born in Prague, Czech Republic, was a general, World War II hero, historical person. So we were always growing up with this military tradition. And I always liked it. And as you say, it's compulsory. And I did it when I was 20, 17 weeks. I was in the mechanized infantry, tanks and everything, very dynamic. And then you can become corporal if they take you, and later on even officer. But it's really a small percentage of people, especially in the tanks, becoming officers. And I did it. I spent about 2 years in the army, all in all. And then it still is mandatory that everybody goes 3 to 4 weeks every year, every man. And I did it. And I did it. And I became a lieutenant and second lieutenant and captain and lieutenant colonel and battalion commander. And I was battalion commander in a very special unit in the airport regiment, which was protecting the airport of Zurich. It was newly founded in '87. And then it was shut down in 2003 after the Cold War ended, actually. And we're protecting as a special force actually the airport. And my battalion was a aggressive attack battalion, I must say. And we were chosen as well very often as regiment to help when there were plane crashes. We had two major plane crashes in Zurich in the late 90s, early zeros, Italian plane with many deaths and another private jet, and we were there taking the people out, and to secure the crash ground. Then we were in Geneva protecting the UN with my battalion and all the embassies for about 2 weeks. So we did quite interesting work, I must say. And after 30 years of service with 50, so it means 9 years ago, I was dismissed as lieutenant colonel. And I must say it was a really, really fabulous experience for me. Many people do not like it. I liked it. I would always do the same thing again if I would be a young man. I learned a lot: communication, leadership, taking responsibility for many, many young men already in a very young age, to cope with different social classes. I must say it's one of the biggest advantages in Switzerland, that you as a soldier, corporal or officer, you have to cope and grew up with different kind of people you would never meet. And this gave me at least a certain kind of social competence, which I maybe had already in me because I like to do it. And then, of course, it's mandatory, compulsory, and it's a service on our democracy in our country. And I think it's a responsibility for everybody to do it. And I think it's the right thing. One of my sons couldn't do it, Andy, who is in Boston. He's a rower. He was double Swiss champion. He was training, but he destroyed almost his back. And he wanted to go, but he cannot go because of his back. And Nicola, our youngest, he will go in 2 years. And this makes me proud. I think it's reasonable and wise. And we had very nice discussions about it. And he will do it. It's important for me and for him as well.
I think it's great to have this kind of experience in your life. And I'm sure it's helped you even while running a business. There's so many things that you must have learned from your army experience. A lot of resilience, decision making. You must have learned so many of this that you actually use and helped you in your business.
I don't want to speak about COVID, but let me share this, please. when this crisis hits us on the 17th March 2020, the first lockdown in history, I would say. And I was walking through the Bahnhofstrasse and everything was empty, almost dead, everything closed. And we all didn't know what will happen. Then this training really helped me to put the management together, because I was presiding a whole Corona group for the last 18 months, to do it from the beginning on, with some kind of dynamic. And it was dramatic. It was a serious issue. And this Manjari training I had really, really helped me to clear my mind, to analyze the problems, to give the right direction, and to take the people with me. Or with my brother, of course. My brother did the same thing. Not as lieutenant colonel, but he was an officer as well. So this learning, this approach really, really helps us.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So
Yes,
I'm going to lighten up the mood a little and talk to you about the Indian weddings. Have you attended any, and have you tasted your boxes of Sprungli that are flown in from Switzerland, especially for these weddings? It's a big market. And
no, I mean, look, I was always, let's put it away. Ever since I can remember as a boy, we had customers from India and from the Arabic countries. Somehow, you people like us for generations. And I always like these regions of the world. Arabia, Middle East, India. I was many, many, many times in Mumbai. I was in Kerala. I'm at board on a foundation there in Kerala, in Trivandrum, supporting orphans and hospitals. I traveled through India with friends. And for me, it was not only a market, it's a culture, it's a passion, and I like to be there. And of course, I mean, I heard about the weddings already in Dubai and in Mumbai. And I was thinking, I told my brother, of course, how could we enter this market without losing our identity and our specialty? Because many, many of your friends as well, maybe of the audience, know us, enjoys us. They know our product. So how can we do it, without losing ourselves and disappointing our customers? So we start to approach, families, thanks to Rotary and YPO, asking, connecting with people, Manjari. And then suddenly it started to roll, Suddenly it starts to roll. You got the opportunity and you use the opportunity. You build a sort of organization, you give the product, you learn. Maybe there were mistakes. Sometimes there was disappointment. Nobody's perfect. But then the word of mouth started, to grow and to roll. And it became bigger and bigger and more exclusive. And sometimes too much exclusivity, even for us Swiss. This was a challenge, I must really say, how to cope with these expectations. And then COVID came and then it was over. But I must say these weddings were great. And we had a team. I call it a bit, the Swiss or Sprungli SEAL team. I mean, these guys, men and women, specialists, like to travel, like adventure, can cope with situation, they can improvise, they can solve problems, they can be on their own. I mean, it's a very special team. And these men and women from Sprungli, from Dietikon, were serving our guests and preparing all the products directly on front in India at the weddings. And this was really a fabulous experience. I joined one wedding one time, and of course, it was great. It was in Dubai, by the way.
So you still need to come to India to experience the real thing.
Yes, absolutely. I love it.
Wonderful.
One of my dreams would be really, not only weddings, of course, but really travel through India by train from south up to north with my wife, and to enjoy your culinary food and the culture, the fabulous culture you have, with hospitality, really.
I wouldn't recommend you to travel.
I'm a fan as well.
But I wouldn't recommend you to travel by train. But yes, we will definitely plan a trip for you.
Yeah, train, but a nice train, of course. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
So we're going to end the event with a few questions, just 2 or 3 questions. I'm very curious to know, which is your favorite chocolate that you serve?
I love our Grand Cru truffles, 70.75% on. I like the dark product. I like our new chocolate bars. We have a chocolate bar of 80% of cacao from Mexico, really fabulous. So I love the dark products and the truffes du jour as well. They're really daily made fresh truffles, which we unfortunately cannot sell in Dubai or in India because it's a daily product. You cannot freeze it. It would lose the quality. Dark chocolates, really my favorite. The whole
Yes,
range.
everyone has to travel all the way to Switzerland to enjoy these. And have you tasted any of the Indian desserts? And if yes, then which one is your favorite, or what do you like? Or do you find them too sweet?
I must say, sometimes I find them a bit sweet. I like, of course, the spicy things.
Mm,
I'm actually the salty man, I must really say. I'm not such a sweet guy. I prefer really the hot stuff, I must say. It's my
great.
the whole range. I'm very open.
Well, Indian food has all the spices and very hot
Absolutely.
food.
I had the
Wonderful.
most spicy
And
story in my life somewhere in Mumbai. I don't remember the place anymore, but really I had to drink a lot of yogurt.
yes. And last question is the festive cheer and the festive season around the corner. What is your favorite part of the holidays? And especially for your stores, it's a very busy time. So how do you make it special for everyone?
I mean, we make about 25% of our turnover, our revenues now in the Christmas season. So it's really most important. Last year we had really hard times, of course. I don't want to repeat it again. Now it's much better. We will have a very good year. We will not reach 2019, but we are really on the track. Now with Omicron, we are waiting for new measurements by the government on Friday. I really hope that they let us live, work without problems, at least keeping the shops open, I must say. We will see what happens. It's a bit stressful for the moment. But for me personally, I like to be in the shops and then on the 24th to be with my family and go up to the mountains, to Cloches, to have some skiing days. This would be nice and will be nice. This I like, to go to the mountains and be with my friends and family. Thinking on
Wonderful.
nothing.
Sounds like a great plan. And thank you so much, Milan. We had a very interesting conversation. We've learned so much. I have learned so much that I'm going to take back with me and use in my business and in my personal life. I'd like to invite Shweta Nathani, our committee member, for giving a small VOT, please.
Thank you very much, Manjri. Thank you very much. Really pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milan, for sharing it with us your delightful journey into the world of Sprungli. I think your passion for whatever you do was so evident in the interaction today. And as you said, the trick to your staying young are the Sprungli chocolates, and we couldn't disagree. As a token of our appreciation, Flow Kolkata has made a small donation in your name to a school for underprivileged children in the Sundarbans area of West Bengal. Can we please have the certificate?
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our past chairpersons and all you members for joining in today and being a part of this talk today. Thank you so much, Milan. Thank you, everyone.
Very
Till
welcome.
next time.
Big honor. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see you physically one day, really.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, we will have you in India with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And happy holidays.
Thank you, you too. All the best. Bye-bye.